On point tonight, Donald Trump's most important supporter, the man you see over my shoulder, just turned on him. Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, the New York Post, and London Times. He just declared war on Trump. In the words of Joe Biden, that is a big, well, can't say that word on television. You know the quote. That is a big deal. Here's Fox chief political anchor Bret Baier over the weekend talking about the January 6th committee.
Laying out all of these 187 minutes makes him look horrific. It really does. And it's for everybody to see. And the president's inaction and the vice president's action getting on the phone is very telling.
Yeah, that is telling. What Bret said probably is even more telling. At first, it looks like Bret, the independent journalist, bucking the company line. I used to work at Fox News, spent over a decade there. Bret Baier is not bucking the company line. That is the company line. How do we know that? Well, a lot of reasons, but most importantly, because within the same weekend, Murdoch's two American newspapers wrote in their own voice that Trump's time is over. This from the Wall Street Journal. He didn't call the military to help. He didn't call Mr. Pence to check on the safety of his loyal VP. Instead, he fed the mob's anger and let the riot play out. The New York Post. As a matter of character, Trump has proven himself unworthy to be this country's chief executive again. That's the New York Post. That's Donald Trump's hometown newspaper. And then there's Fox and Friends that ran polling unfavorable to the former president. Fox and Friends criticizing Donald Trump never happened. Remember, long before his campaign had a weekly spot, long before Donald Trump announced for the presidency, long before he was even considered to be a presidential candidate, he had a weekly call-in slot on Fox and Friends. He would opine on matters of the day, on culture, on Barack Obama, and the like. That's where he cultivated Fox's loyal audience. 65% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents say the only place they trust is Fox News. Murdoch media outlets and Trump engaged in a constant echo chamber of mutual praise. Trump knew that's where his voters and loyalists got their information. Remember on January 6th, he watched all afternoon in the West Wing. He was in the dining room. He was watching Fox News. That's where he watched the riot. And what I'm about to show you is admittedly a little self-aggrandizing, but it makes the point. During the administration, during Trump's administration and my time at Fox, people close to the president would often send me pictures of Trump watching me, either after golf or on Air Force One. Of course, he didn't watch because of me. I was one of the anchors at Fox he hated because I would occasionally question him, and I certainly told the truth about him. Now he's not happy that Fox and Friends is doing the same thing he got angry at me for. Fox and Friends just really botched by poll numbers, no doubt on purpose. That show has been terrible, gone to the dark side. They quickly quote the big turning point victory of almost 60 points over the number 2 Republican and then hammer me with outliers. Actually, almost all the polls have me leading all Republicans and Biden by a lot. Rhino Paul Ryan, one of the weakest and worst speakers ever, must be running the place. Anyway, thank you to the Turning Point and the crowd, and love was amazing. One quick point about Paul Ryan. He's on the board of 21st Century that owns Fox News, that the people above my shoulder work for. Trump, as you heard, called it the dark side. Truth is, the Fox and Friends anchors don't have a side. They have a boss. And that boss controls the most powerful names in conservative media: New York Post, Wall Street Journal, Fox News. That boss, Rupert Murdoch, just publicly told Trump that he is searching for a new candidate. That's On Point tonight. George Will is here, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, NewsNation senior political contributor, and like me, a former employee of Mr. Murdoch. Why the turn?
It's tempting to say, and probably has a lot of truth in saying, that it has something to do with the January 6th committee meeting. What's interesting to me, Leland, is Fox News is really two Fox Newses. There's the Fox News up until the end of the Bret Baier show at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and then you go from news to high-octane opinion. At all times, Fox News is, with regard to the Republican Party and the Trump base, it's not broadcasting, it's narrowcasting. It speaks directly to the Republican nominating electorate. I remember, if I can tell you this story, in early May 2016, just as the Republican nomination competition was coming to an end, the last remaining obstacle to Trump was Senator Cruz. And Cruz said to me at the time, right before the Indiana primary, he said, I can compete against Donald Trump. I cannot compete against Donald Trump and Fox News. That's what he had to do at that time. But now, as you say, when you've lost Fox and Friends, who else have you got?
Well, you lost Fox and Friends. You also lost Bret Baier. You said Bret Baier's show was the last bastion of news, and now you have Bret going after Trump pretty pointedly. What I think is interesting.
Leland,
go ahead.
It's interesting that he didn't do it on his show.
Yeah.
He went on another show where it was certain that he was going to be asked. I'm sure they probably arranged to have him ask the question to which he gave that answer. So that's the real big tree in the forest falling, is when Bret Baier did that.
Look, there is a company line at Fox, and especially during the time that it was so clear in November, December, and early January of the presidential transition that Donald Trump had lost, and yet there was so much broadcasting at Fox about the conspiracy theories and the like. And I'm picking my words carefully here, but there was an idea at Fox News to respect the audience was the company line. You must respect the audience, and they've been very good at that. They've been true to that ideal and that directive. Has the audience changed now, and is that what is changing the way Fox is looking at the Republican Party and their audience?
I suspect that's not quite the case yet. I think what Murdoch's a very serious political person in the sense that he wants his side to win. His side is the Republican Party. And this is, to me, Murdoch saying, particularly after the revelations of the January 6th, which have seeped into the information ecosystem of the country, particularly after this, Mr. Trump is a loser in 2024. I think this is not coming from the audience up. It's coming from Murdoch's executive suite on down.
Well, and that it says a lot in terms of not only what he's decided, but how much power he has. Mr. Will, welcome back from vacation. We're glad to have you back on Mondays.
I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, pleasure, sir. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.